Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're right in time for E-Trends right here on E-Magazine. I'm your host, Brandon Michaba, and today the guest joining me is my colleague, Ondiro Gangan. I'm pretty sure you guys have watched her on so many shows on Metropole TV, knowing her for Debrief. And let me tell you something, she's such a smart girl, and I'm super excited to have her on my show. How are you doing today?
Sorry, who are you talking about? Because that's not me.
She's gonna act like you don't know who we're talking about. And I'm pretty sure your fans are watching today.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Ondiro.
Yeah.
How does it feel that someone is interviewing you instead of the other way around?
Excited, actually, because it's different, but I'm excited.
That's good. So we jump right into our conversation so we could just get to see Ondiro's perspectives on our trending conversations. Now, the US streaming platform Netflix has rejected a call from Britain's culture minister to add disclaimers at the start of episodes of its hit series, The Crown, to make clear that it is a work of fiction, several British media reported on Sunday. Now, Culture Secretary Oliver Dowden is among several prominent figures in Britain who have argued that the scripted series in which actors play members of the royal family risked giving viewers a wrong and damaging impression of the royals. A government source said that Dowden had written to the company saying the series was a beautifully produced and acted drama, but Netflix should be very clear it is a work of fiction. Now, Ondiro, of course, Netflix came out saying that they did not immediately respond, but they say they're not planning to exactly do that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get to know your perspective on this series first before we talk about this little test that Netflix is having with the British government. So what are your thoughts on the series? Have you even watched it?
No. It's not the genre that I'd watch, but it has received like really good reviews. And I think it's done really well for itself. And before we came on the show, definitely, I did some background reading on it. It's a really big show, and maybe over the December holiday, I might.
Please make time to watch it. I'll also try and make time to fully watch the series because I haven't. Do you feel that having read on it and seeing what the series is about and what its main backstory is about, do you feel that it depicts the role of Queen Elizabeth II in the 1940s clearly?
I think the story has progressed, and when you read into it, you realize that it's based on the real life occurrences around the royal family. But remember, it just can't be real 100%. It has been blended with fiction to give the story life and that sort of curiosity that viewers want to watch and keep up with. But very important to note, because if you look at the casting, the storyline, it's so close to what happened that the lines are very blurry. So if you do not make that deliberate effort to say this is fictitious, even though it's based on real events, we've blended it with some fiction so that it can become a good television production. The lines can become very blurry. Remember, the royal family has been perceived in a certain way. A lot of information about them does not get out, not until recently. You know, they were like the holy monarchs. And for you to start giving information about them, yet people did not have that information from the beginning, then people might sort of believe what you're telling them.
That's very true. I see where you're coming from with that. And also the fact that when you're doing such a film, when you're doing through the scripting and the research process, sometimes you have to find individuals who are actually there during that time to get that research. And I feel like that's also something the British government was not very happy about, because some scenes do show people who were back then in there and they had to kind of tell their story. So in order to tell their story, you have to talk to them. So I feel like that's one of the things why the British government do not really agree with that. Do you agree with the Secretary of the Culture's move to request Netflix to always, you know, at the beginning of the series, ensure that it tells its viewers this is fiction?
I think if you watch very many programs, you'll realize that at the beginning, even books, writers are always very keen to say the events in this story are fictitious, and if they relate with somebody, it's purely out of coincidence. Now, when you're doing a story that is related to somebody's real life or some events are related to that, it's just a courtesy you can extend them. And I'm saying courtesy because as an artist, you're entitled to your own freedom. But remember, there are people behind these stories. For example, season 4, we are seeing the story of Princess Diana becoming more and more prominent. The actor looks like her, the dress she wore for her wedding. But remember, behind Emma Corrin's character are two kids, William and Harry, whose mother died in a very public and sort of disgraced way in the media. So if you're going to sort of open that Pandora box, the least you can do is just extend them some courtesy and say, these events are fictitious so that you just don't add salt to an injury.
Okay, I like how you've put that as well. And funny enough, I think Prince Charles is actually a fan of The Crown. I feel like there's something he shared on Instagram saying that he's watching it and he's really enjoying it so far. So that's quite encouraging. What do you think such a film that focuses on the government, the British government, and there's so many films that you'd find when they're trying to focus on telling stories about their particular government, not just in the UK, even in Africa, these stories tend to get a lot of criticism. Why do you think that?
I think it's because you're touching on the uncomfortable subjects. For example, The Crown is bringing out aspects of the story that would rather be left under the rags. And that brings some sort of discomfort because you've taken people out of their control and comfort zone. Another such film that touched on that is Stateless, that showed the sham in the Australian immigration system, where an Australian who had mental health was actually detained in a refugee facility for a very long time because that verification process of refugees and even Australians is very disorganized, and people came out in large numbers protesting this, but it's because it's something that's happening, and the beauty about art is it reflects the times upon which we live in. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, sometimes it's not.
Very true. Now, after having this conversation with me, do you think you're going to take time to watch The Crown? We'll take that as a yes. I was about even to drop my scripts. I just let Ondira like host this show because I'm having so much fun with that so far. And we're going to move on to the next topic of our conversation, where we look at CNN, films, and BBC. Will take viewers inside the efforts of researchers around the world who have been working on the clock to develop and manufacture vaccines to fight the global pandemic. In a documentary featured slated to air on CNN and BBC Two in the spring of 2021, as CNN Films retained linear television rights throughout the United States and territories, as well as Canada, HHMI Tangled Bank Studios holds the educational rights. Global Health Reporting Center and Wingspan Productions retain rights outside of the UK and North America. Now, Sanjay Gupta, CNN's chief medical correspondent, and CNN chief medical correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta will narrate the US broadcast. Now, the film, called A Race for the Vaccine, will be produced and directed by Catherine Gill, a British filmmaker and former virologist. I don't even want to say that word now because I just shrugged it. Co-directed by Caleb Halmer, and an independent filmmaker, as well as who's an American medical journalist. Now, Ondira, I just want to get to know you. What do you think this documentary is going to focus on?
First, I think they should have let Morgan Freeman voice it, because it would have been like really, it would have set you in the mood. But I think it would be a really interesting documentary to watch, because COVID came as a shock, and also a lot of work within the year has gone into place to develop a vaccine. That's a very short time to develop a vaccine, because it takes 10 years. But if you listen to some of the scientists and the producers behind the documentary, they say the most interesting thing about pandemics, how they end, is determined by how they began. And they want to tell the stories of these scientists who were in the lab prior to COVID-19 doing research on viruses, on the SARS virus that had been in China. So that would be really interesting on how they built up on that data to be able to come up with something viable for COVID-19, and also the disappointments, the high moments, and how they felt when the first vaccine was dosed out there.
I feel like we're still in the process of really testing out the vaccine and seeing it works for the different individuals globally. Do you think they're saying they're going to release this film by 2020, mid-2020 next year? Do you feel by that time we are going to be in a place where this vaccine is assured that it works for each and every individual?
I think, as is with every new vaccine, it's going to have its challenges. It's had its good times. I mean, the efficacy data is good, 95%, 90%. And it's been working well so far from the clinical trials. But in Britain, barely a day or 2 days ago, 2 people had a severe reaction to the vaccine. And that just tells you that it will face its own challenges, it will have its own hurdles, but it will also have its own good days, because very many people have begun getting vaccinated in the UK. US FDA has given the approval for vaccinations. So it will be a good story, because we'll see the difficult part of it, but we'll also see the beautiful side of it.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm super excited for this documentary. I'm a person who loves documentaries. And speaking of documentaries, documentaries are super important in the sense that not only they tell us histories that we don't know about, tell us stories that we unaware of. I just wanted to get your perspective on the kind of power you think documentaries have in terms of telling stories and the kind of impact this kind of documentary will have on development.
I think documentaries are very important because they show you the other side, like you said, the other side that you do not see. And also I think people will begin to appreciate, because vaccines are a very hotly contested topic. There are people who believe in them, there are those who do not believe in them. I think when you are able to see the blood, sweat and tears that went into the process of making the vaccine, and you see the intention of the scientists, then you realize maybe sometimes you're just too hard on science. The only thing that these people are trying to do is to improve humanity.
Very, very, very true. I just wanted to get to know what are the things you're hoping you get from this documentary. What are some of the things they'll tackle in terms of issues?
I think with vaccines, minority communities and minority areas, because most of these vaccines are targeted for Europes and Americas, and those are the genes that they have and the DNAs that they have. It would be interesting to see how they are trying to work with people like Africans, people like Asians, to add us to that database, so that when the vaccine is rolled out, we also have a shot at it.
Okay, wonderful. Andira, do we not know that you have a doctor title that we don't know about?
No. It's the effect of the family that has rubbed on me. I was good at science, I was good at English, and the other guys are good at biology. So
wow, I'm telling you something. I'm learning new things about Ondira that I did not even know about. Well, Ondira, because of time, we have to end our conversation. I'm super sad. We had more to talk about, but I'm gonna have Ondira on my show again, guys. If you're loving our conversation, please keep talking to us, keep engaged on our social media platforms at Metro TV K. You can reach me at Brandon Michaba, and you know Ondira Ganga. You can find her on social media as well. And so now, guys, we're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be looking at Fashion Corp.